The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Okay. Let's get the show on the road. You want to pray us in, Kathy?
And we officially call to order the 2021 annual meeting for St. Edmunds Pacifica. Let us pray. Encourage your church, O God. Encourage us by the fellowship and the table fellowship that we share, the faith that we hold together, the meals that come together, and the outreach that flows from those things. Help us to find our way, O Lord, in the time of pandemic, in the times of social unrest, in the times of confusion. And help us to celebrate on the days of great joy, the feast days, honoring you, and special events that happen in this congregation. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
You done?
I'm not done now. I am not yet.
That was short.
This would be shorter if I had more time with Georgia. She's a good editor. But anyway. It has often been said that the only constant in life is change. In some ways, it seems the pace of change has quickened in the last year. In other ways, it seems to have continued to move at a snail's pace. Will we ever get back to normal? What is normal anyway? Is it normal to have church outside all the time? Is it normal to stay 6 feet away from people? Is it normal to sing through a mask? Are things now at a new normal? I believe we are at a crossroads where we have an opportunity to go in a variety of directions as a church community. Our country has been stuck at a crossroads in so many ways. We've had political changes, social changes, we've certainly had changes due to the pandemic. Now we are once again in a situation where we have to decide the direction we are going to go. We can choose to be positive and helpful to one another, or we can go in a different direction. Gandhi once said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." That has been made more difficult with the pandemic. Normally, I would be the change by seeing people in person and interacting that way, but not these days. Last summer, I was ready to open up my personal, professional, and spiritual life. Then the Delta virus hit, and all those plans went into the dumpster. Now once again, many of us are looking at how we can best be of service. The church itself is at a crossroads, trying to figure out how hybrid church can work, how people can be safe, and figuring out what we can ask of those who attend. At some point, not everybody who comes through the door will guarantee to be vaccinated, so we have to prepare for that. I don't always understand the reasoning for not requiring people to be vaccinated, but we're not going to get into that. Even if we reach herd immunity in the U.S. at some point, it is going to take time to take care of the rest of the world. Until then, our choices are to find ways to keep ourselves and those we care about safe. But that is just the first part of our choice at this particular juncture or crossroads. Once we decide what we want to do, we have to decide how we are going to do it, as well as all the particulars. One example of what we're doing is what's going on with the library. It's taken the better part of a year, but we've had the windows in the library replaced, and we will soon have a fresh coat of paint on the walls. Betsy tells me first weekend in December, so that's really wonderful. Yeah, it's taken a lot of effort. We've got new chairs, thanks to my friend Sheila, and we evicted the small rodents chewing away at the stacks. Now that the slate is cleared, so to speak, what are we going to do with it? I'm sure the NA folks will resume their meetings before long, and since we are seeing an increase in requests to use the church in general, it will help to have as much usable space as we can muster. In general, we managed to keep the church spaces well utilized by increasing the use of the courtyard and outside space. Not only did we work closely with groups such as the Mothers Club, but we added a Tai Chi group and reached out or responded to others. We're working on setting up a drumming group with a drum circle in the near future, and we expect one of our former members to start dance classes soon. We made progress at straightening out our finances and getting a better sense of what was needed to address roof repair and other deferred maintenance. With the help of our vicar, Kathy, we've continued to make progress in interacting in a positive way with the diocese. The fact that we had a successful visit from the bishop was just one example of this positive atmosphere. We owe Kathy a debt of gratitude, and it just makes sense we should acknowledge the work she has done while she is still here. We should also acknowledge our junior warden, Tom, our social justice warrior and library maven, Betsy, the crucial musical ministry of Ruby and Doug, the efforts of Renee in keeping the bulletin and other things going, the web and other outreach that have been done by Linda and David, always keeping us connected with the Pacifica Peace people. Sandy's efforts to help clear up the bank finances, Rudy and Georgia for their efforts to keep the online and non-virtual parts of the community humming, as well as others who have helped in ways large and small to keep things going here at St. Edmunds. And I apologize for not, I'm sure I missed some people. You know, I'm looking at Carol, Mara, Ted, Catherine, Marilyn, everybody here has done a lot of great stuff. Thank you for all your efforts to keep things going. It means more to me than words can express. Getting back to the crossroads, though, what will we do with what we have here at St. Edmunds? How will we thrive and grow now that we have survived a once-in-a-century pandemic, a once-in-a-generation roof leak, and a host of other problems? I would hope we would continue our efforts to provide more light for our church community and society at large. I want to continue to be proud of what we have accomplished at St. Edmunds and continue to be the change we want to see in the world. It's not that we have to go in a particular direction at this crossroads, it's just that we have to keep going so we can be good stewards of St. Edmunds that I know we want to be, and leave a legacy for those who come after us, just as those who came before us left a legacy for us. Thank you. What's that?
We are grateful for all you've done as our
Yeah, we're going to add you to the list on our own behalf. Do you have any questions for Dan at this point in time? Anything you need, want, or feel interested? Go ahead, Catherine.
Is the library not going to be a library anymore? It's not going to have books in it?
Oh, absolutely it will have books in it.
Okay.
It will absolutely have books in it. And we've kept the majority of the books that we have. There's been some that were damaged and some that we thinned out, but we kept most of what we have. It's just a matter of how are we going to utilize it, because that space really was not usable as it was before we started this process. It was the dust and mold and things were just like, it was not safe. Now we've got the option to use it, but again, how are we going to use it? I just would like to be thoughtful about that. We're not going to get into all the particulars today, but at least we can start to think about, well, how do we want to make our plans for the year? What are our priorities? And that's why I just want to put that out there so people can have a chance to have their input. And people don't know, but Catherine was already paying attention to something earlier where she mentioned we've got a tree that by the picnic table that needs to be pruned, and it's that time of year. So that's not a cheap thing. So that's another example of how we have to be kind of intentional about this stuff. But we don't have a ton of resources, so we have to figure out how we can use what we have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You will find in the package of materials, either ones that I gave to you or that you uploaded that have some information, things concerned with accounting with money. I would like to thank Sandy and Renee for making this possible. This is not my forte, and so it's really nice to have people that you can trust and depend on to handle the finances of the congregation. By item, you can see that there are sort of clumps of things. There's church and diocesan things, maintenance, office, and utilities. And those four categories are the bulk of what our expenditures are. We have upcoming expenditures that we will be discussing later on about what we might do. But in my address, I'm going to give you some information about some congregational gatherings that we're going to have 3 of them between now and May, wherein we get to sort of hash out some of these ideas of what we're doing in the future and how we would structure leadership and so on. And set some goals for ourselves as a congregation. So that's coming up. As you have looked over the information as it has as presented, I will say that there's a few things that will not be, repeating things like we shouldn't have to have the stove and organ repaired next year. So that would be an expense, but that was a one-time thing. The church register was a one-time thing. It takes us 10 years to get through that. So you're good for another 10 years for the little register where I marked in how many people were here and how many people took communion. We keep that register because the National Church asks us as a congregation and me as a priest to file information to the National Church about some of the statistical information concerning the parish. Ruby Darling.
Yes, I just wanted to say that the organ won't need to be repaired, but it should be checked periodically, so that should be an ongoing.
So the organ is organ maintenance.
Yeah.
The main.
Yeah, maintenance. So that should be a continuing line item with budget.
And if I could add to that, from time to time, we also tune the piano. I was just gonna say that, especially with that program.
Yeah, tuning the piano would also be one. That's right. Thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Yes.
You notice specific a resource that usually says $300. Well, that's our yearly, and we're not finished with paying those bills through the end of the year. So just to let you know that some of these things are as of the first week of November. That's how current the information is for you.
Is our phone bill, is it because we're not a resident? Like, that's like way, way, way higher than my landline at home. And is it because we're not a resident? Is that a normal phone rate?
We're a business line.
Yeah, and so that's just a normal business line, I guess, right? So that.
Now that's a hassle, isn't it?
We should be able to consolidate internet and phone. I mean, it's like that's, those together probably could be consolidated into one with some bargaining with Comcast, but
With the services provided. Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
The Comcast, the phone service is provided.
well, that's,
Phone service with Comcast, with internet. It's there.
Is the bill separate?
it's hard to hear what each word's spoken unless people project their voice or take their mask off.
Our internet bill includes internet phone. The issue was, people wanted the phone available in case the internet went down. That was why we had
A landline that is.
Yeah. And the phone.
Even so,
Yeah.
even so.
Thank you for that clarification.
Well, I mean, I do hard bargaining when dealing with customer service with anybody. Anyway, I don't want to do more. The thing, it's like, hello, can you anyway? We are a nonprofit, we're a business. Hello, we're a church. Hello, are you sure?
Ted, you had the question.
I was just, my personal experience is don't let Comcast work on your landline. Because they'll destroy it.
Oh.
They just rip out all the
sure they did
Yeah.
without really making that clear at all.
Yeah.
Here or your house?
Our house.
Okay, well, again,
And my parents' house and a friend's house, like that's.
yeah.
So we will bring that up in an ongoing discussion with Bishop's Committee for the next year about how we can make that $3,200 be less. Isn't that what it was approximately the two of them combined?
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Also not,
That's not my thing, Carol.
also not here is the semi-annual or annual fire inspection, which involves making sure that our, one thing related to this, our stove hood inspected and checked, the other are fire extinguishers, and there's a third thing, and then we can go with the fire inspector. Anyway, and it all costs a modest amount of money in terms of service charges by two contractors, and then the inspection by the North County Fire Authority, which took place in the Pacific Fire Department. So that's not yet paid, but
Okay, I've got fire inspection written down.
yeah,
So we'll,
fire inspection and ancillary activities are contracted checks.
Great.
any other questions about those particular line items? We have an accounting, thanks to Sandy and Renee, of money that has been deposited on our behalf. By date, that is not necessarily the date of the Sunday, but that would be the date the money went in. So don't be panicking if you only if you see 5 for August, but you only see 2 for April. It's not that we didn't have income, it's just that sometimes we just accrued it before we went to the bank with it. So that explains the dates. You will notice that we have virtually no cash income until the second week of July. That's because we weren't meeting. And so that suddenly starts up when we are in person in July.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool as I went through the records. And again, this is up to the first week of November and does not include last week, this week, and the weeks into December. So the total budget for 2021 is yet to be settled, but we hope to be able to give that information to you in January once we've got the bills paid, got some sense of where we are, so that you can see too where we are. Was there any surprise or any question or anything about?
I have a question.
Yeah, if you pull your mask off so I can hear you.
How much is the assessment?
The assessment to the diocese is a total of $2,300 and some change, I think,
Per year?
per year. Yeah. Sandy, please, pull your mask down.
It's something in the neighborhood of $245 or $250 a month. Okay? And it's based on our pledged income. Not quite, but pledged.
So that's closer to 3,000 annually. Because 12
Well, it
times
changes
250.
every year too.
What?
It changes every year.
Yeah.
Right.
Based on what happens at,
Is it prior 2 years or something?
Right.
Yeah. So it takes like 2 years to before the assessment catches up with the current income.
alrighty. Any other questions on the income and the bills paid by a budget item? Then let's go to the page on savings account. We have one. If you noticed on a prior page, it said that we have 11,667.48 in the savings account. And these are the notes that I referred to when I wrote in there, notes attached. We currently have $500 designated for roof and roof repairs. there's a transfer of money yet to happen. So right at the moment, we have 2544 in the library, but there's a transfer of another $1,000 in there that's coming.
I have an update on that.
Please.
We spent that money to pay off Dial a couple of days ago.
Now, that's not dial, that's dial glass. Sorry.
All right.
Yeah, so we have paid for, we had the money for the windows.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. We fell victim to supply chain problems, and that's why they didn't go into now.
They're beautiful.
You should take a look at
Oh,
there.
yeah, sometime this afternoon after the meeting's called, we ought to go just stick your nose in. It's really beautiful. And of course, we've got like the best view of the diocese out that window. So, do that.
We made it all happen, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well done, good and faithful servant. She's been our point person on getting those windows taken care of and, you know, getting information to the BC about contractors and costs, and we know when contractors came through, and so that has been particularly helpful. Yes, ma'am?
We're going to owe another $1,000 for the painter.
Yes. So that is still going to be part of what comes out of the, probably these funds or other funds that have been designated for the library or for general purposes. So, as we proceed down there, $500 designated for savings for general purposes. There's another 700 labor report that's going to go in there. So the number available for expenses is going to drop $2,500 because we just spent the designated for library. Anybody wants to give to the library project, write it in the memo line on your check for the library. A note from Sandy Renee, there's an automatic transfer of $200 from checking into savings every month. And the figures are updated to October 2021. So another $400 will go in there before year end. Plus any that you designate for savings accounts. The checking account balance, money is being taken out of the account to go into some of these other accounts. And so it was going to drop to $1,183 at that point in time. We have a snapshot for this information. So the total after designated funds were dispersed from the account is going to be $1,183.63. We have the following four bills that, or following three bills that come up that hit us a little more financially. The quarterly insurance bill, which is due in January. The gardener, we didn't know he still worked for us, and he hasn't invoiced us. So we owe him some money in arrears. Yes, sir.
We make annual agreements about the gardener, as I understand it. It should be in the minutes. And the fact that he doesn't bill us monthly is an issue that should be addressed. So I think he should, you know, we need to pay this bill, but we also need to ask for us to be invoiced every 2 months at
A minimum.
a minimum.
Yeah, so that he's responsible and so are we.
Right, and so we stay current with what our necessary expenses are.
Right.
Because that should be in the budget, not a surprise at the end of the year.
What does the gardener do?
Cuts the grass.
Cuts the grass, pulls out some of the stuff that we pull out of there when some of us come through and weed, or we need to knock down some other things in the garden to keep it healthy. Or sometimes I've left a couple bags of mulch for him to put out. So it's a continuing upkeep that we.
He often also does, upon request, the sidewalks, because people tripping over the bumps of asphalt that are sometimes hidden by weeds can be an insurance injury liability for us, so that's been a specific request he's taken care of. He does do some intermittent trimming. He appears to come once a month.
And we've also asked him on occasion to clear the walkway between our property and the back.
Yes.
Right.
And the little tree grows over everything.
Yeah, and that, because that stuff is like a jungle. I don't know if we try walking out there anytime.
Mar and Ted, and then,
Okay, Marquette.
I don't know, maybe not, maybe not, those bushes that are along this sidewalk grow so far out, it's hard to walk past it, and really need to be cut back a lot. Yeah, I noticed that, I just noticed that. So,
yeah.
I don't know if that's the kind of thing he does, if he does, I think that's what he would.
That's what a gardener should do.
Well,
Ted?
I would like Tom to mention that what he told me, that the women that were here 3 or 4 weeks ago cleared that parking lot up there, which was just awful.
Yeah.
it was the Mother's Club, which included men, women, men, and young kids being very helpful.
And I have to say, Ted used to do that.
Ted used to do, well, no wonder you noticed.
No,
We all did. And it's a blessing.
Got Marilyn.
In order to do that extra work, that's not his regular $100 a month.
Usually not, that's right.
Because I know for a fact that, I checked this morning as I came up the street, that we have to go all the way to the other church, and it takes 3 people on ladders to cut back all those trees. So I know that bill will cost more, so someone needs to make sure that that's understood.
Okay?
The landscaper, that he knows, I mean, it's not a $100 job.
Well, it wouldn't be to the other church, it's just on, adjacent to our building.
no,
No,
our property
no.
extends almost all the way down to the Baptist church.
No, we're talking about our sidewalk that goes from our door to our parking lot.
Oh.
No, it goes beyond that, it goes beyond that, we're responsible, we own.
We're talking about 2 different sidewalks.
Right.
One is on the street, and one of them is totally on our property. And that's the one you're talking about, that is just adjacent to the building.
Yes.
Yes.
So we need to get that information out. Great.
The sidewalk is by the street. Well, I'm unclear. You're talking about
the pathway.
the walkway. The walkway is not a sidewalk. The concrete walkway between here, yes, I'm aware of that. And it's been trimmed back at least once in the last 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
Not by me. I mean, I've done a few things, but it's been trimmed back.
Isn't it amazing what a little rain will do?
Well, I mean, now I'm clear about what needs to be addressed. I've been aware of it because even as a 66-year-old gone there, people older than I who may have traversed to and from the lower parking lot. It is an issue. We need a gardener or a good competent volunteer, hopefully that's not me, to do it.
I have to tell you, Ted used to do that too.
Yes,
Yes.
Thank you.
walkway, not sidewalk.
Did you have something, David?
Yeah, it looks like if we look at our bills paid, Dave, we did $500 on maintenance, and that was trees, wasn't it? If you look at the savings account and bills paid this year, we have maintenance in the garden for 500, and I think that was extra besides the gardener doing his normal stuff.
Yeah, we did have some tree work.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not the regular garden.
Well, the tree work, whatever tree work was done for $500, I'm unclear about because I don't know who it was paid to. 2, a lot of what's happened with trees has been done by Evergreen Tree Service spread over the last 2.5 years.
Yeah, we had a
And
lot.
I'm really not clear on who was given the $500 to do what because it's not indicated.
We can check that out for you and let you know.
I can get it for you.
Yeah, so we can get back to you if you remind me, we'll get this all hammered out and you see that you want to know what that $500 is for, and, yeah.
Standing as an arm.
So the tree trimming did not occur in 2021.
Okay.
It was last fall, a year ago.
The tree trimming between here and the Baptist church.
As far as I remember.
Yeah, I think you're correct.
It wasn't
Yeah.
a big bill.
Well, also, last year, I mean, I proposed and it wasn't taken up because the contract and relationship with the gardener needs to be refined, that we would consider, if we had more money, which we don't, that we up to 125 monthly, for which we would ask more specific things, including the parking lot once or twice a year, really be clear about sidewalk coverage, as well as then factoring in an additional, at least annual, for between the sidewalk between here and the Baptist church. Anyway, it's ambiguous at this point, and I don't think we have the money.
So we'll check into some of those, who is the payee or some of these things, so we can clear up some of that maintenance issue. This past year hasn't been as bad on maintenance as it had been the previous year. I don't know if you remember the November from Health, where we had the heater go out, the snow go out, and the garbage reports all go out within a period of 10 days.
I remember.
Yeah, and so we're catching up on a few of these things, but we haven't fully arrived. The status of the current bills, assessment is sent, a bill is sent to us for assessment, and they're a little bit behind in getting that out to us. But we are paid through the last assessment bill that we received for September. So we still owe some money there. Payroll is paid through August of 2021. That's also a delay billing kind of thing where they send out the bill and we send off the money. So it doesn't always arrive every 4 weeks. It all comes out of one office in the Dye House. So yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just want to clarify a little bit. They actually send bills every 2 weeks. But for any, so the billing for October doesn't get mailed until after November begins. And oftentimes we don't get it until the 15th of the month.
Okay.
So it's just a time lag rather than we are current with our bills with the diocese.
Great. And we paid all of our, you have paid all of my pension on time?
I have my share.
Thank you.
We have, actually.
You all have paid my pension, thank you.
Well, I just picked up the mail this week and there was another bill, so yeah.
Of course. And all of our insurance bills and tax bills have all been paid, and they were paid on time, as reported by our lovely people. Any other questions concerning money? Ted, please.
What's going on with the roof, this thing? says
There's a
something-
junior warden report, there will be an outline passed up, we'll address it. I mean, there is a money problem attached to that.
Always never. So,
Any problem? Oh, really?
we're gonna sell my firstborn, since there isn't one.
Rudy's here.
I love it.
If I gave you a multicolored coat, you better worry.
Somebody in the back starts saying, Joe!
Thank you.
So would you like to proceed apace, my friend?
Would I like to? No, I'm on now. Would I like to?
Well,
It's not about preference, it's about responsibility.
I know that.
Okay. Written outline for everyone. Blank piece of paper.
Thank you.
I hate masks because I'm used to licking my fingers. Pretty easy, and,
Leave it like this, Sheriff.
oh, okay, well, we'll see. Be careful of, be careful of that, the mid-page, sort. Well, I'll come back to your vote. Yeah, I don't have more. So. You would have to share with somebody.
Does Jack anyone or Sam?
Who?
No, we're done, we're good.
If you look, those of you have it, I have tasks completed, oven in the kitchen, stove repaired. The vicar ran into the fact that the ovens did not function. That cost $1,600. Brian assisted me in the removal of the old window from Sunday school and the installation of the new. I've worked on roofing bids for about 2+ months. At this point, we have one bid from one contractor for replacement, which would cost $35,000, or repair, which will cost close to $6,000. Frutel Roofing, which came out, one of the other two, after my pursuit, said they couldn't offer a bid because they couldn't even guarantee to complete even a repair job. But they did do an inspection, but I'm like, well, okay.
You know what, I couldn't guarantee it why.
They are basically a one-person operation. They would not submit a bid because they would not be able to complete the work. Even the guy who came out said, for complete roofing jobs were booked way in advance. But I didn't know they wouldn't submit paperwork. At the last roofing company, Advantage, I have spoken with twice, and I have yet to receive a written bid. Anyway, I'll pursue Advantage one more time, but 3 sets of contractors have come here. Yes?
Are we replacing life for life? or-
Pardon me? Okay, hand away from mouth, I need to hear vocal projection. I'm serious, what?
Go ahead, Marilyn.
Thank you. Are you replacing life for life, or did you want something unusual up there because of foam or anything else?
We're asking bids for repair and replacement, assuming like for like. Of course, for full replacement at this point, we haven't looked at different options other than like for like. But at this point, we can't even afford full replacement of like for like, so.
Okay, just questioning.
Yeah.
My son-in-law is Rocket Roofing. Did you want another bid?
Okay. Walk-in roofing.
I would like to give you the number for it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Like a family discount, we don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Hey, whatever works.
Hey, we'll play it.
I sanded and re-oiled the top of the altar and the back table. The balance on the rear of our beautiful altar needs completion. It gets heavily sun-bleached. We did, I believe, 1 work day. I've done some coordination on the needs of Montara Mountain Zendo and Kosai Vipassana with Renee. I've given some feedback and assistance on posting about reopening protocols and for whom. Intermittent consults on heat and thermostat, and I don't know if I did the toilet repair and reinstallation of the first bathroom this year or last. I can't remember.
I think it was this year.
Okay, well, yeah. Outstanding. I am the financial reality check when a number of people want to do this and want to do that and want to do that. And there's more than is on the outstanding list. A roof, for looks after the roof is repaired, interior ceiling. We have pre-corrosion behind our north wing that was addressed once with a grant and some good engineering work that the diocese paid for. We also have pre-corrosion back here, which is longer range, but still might be addressed if we had a lot of money. It might be the wing and the prayer and divine intervention. There's work that needs to be done on electric circuits. I haven't finished replacing the lights in the copy room. Along with electric circuits, we have a long range with probably the need to replace most of the fluorescent lights because they're out of date in terms of energy conservation, and on probably at least a third of the ballasts are shot. Floors. I've heard, oh, we should do the floors. Yeah, we should do the floors. The floors can be done professionally with a lot of money. I have access to a commercial sander that I've used in my own house. It can be done, but it would still take the course of a week plus in which we might meet outside. But to me, it's a long-range looks and maintenance thing. I wrote down stuff that's already been addressed on coordinating with the gardener, keeping the sidewalk safe, issues with trees. We have a tree back there that I don't think is impeding the flow of much human traffic or any creek traffic. So I don't plan to address it and jump on it as if it were an emergency. That's about it. One more thing. Even though Max says clean up there, that frame, that fabric, it didn't used to be that gray. So a mild short-range ideal would be the frame comes out, the fabric gets removed, and it gets replaced with and stretched by some fabric, probably easily accessible at one of the 2 fabric stores nearby. Questions? Pardon me?
Sorry, I missed the subject.
The speaker
The
thing.
speaker bed.
The organ bed.
Oh,
Max trod up there and
The
cleaned
inside.
it out for the first time in 20-something years. And I guess it was pretty nasty.
didn't know.
Tom, what is that fabric? You said it could be replaced by purchase at a fabric store, but what actually is that fabric?
You know what? I haven't climbed up because it's really yucky, and I'm 66, and I'm not going to even know what it is till I take it down. So,
I thought it looked more like a very fine screen rather than fabric.
It's a speaker
what?
It's like speaker fabric,
Oh, yeah.
acoustic fabric.
Oh, I'm great too.
So that would probably not be at like fabrics, regular fabric store, but
I don't know.
I don't know.
I was thinking you go to a stereo store, but that's kind of.
Well, somebody could research acoustic fabric.
Yeah.
Someone besides me, and then, approximate square foot, 6 by 10 roughly, and 6 by 8,
I'm sure that any Oregon company and that also does repairs would have some sense of where to get something like that too.
What do you say, measurements would be? 6 by.
My eyeball says 5 or 6 by 8 to 10, but that's just, I only see a 10 on the long dimension. I think it's, and I actually have a tape measure in my bag back there, so I can do a better estimate. Yeah.
I'm waiting a night.
Pardon me?
She's waving a knife.
Oh, don't.
So do you want me to contact the organ technician about where and what type of
Fabric.
material?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We're not due for another checkup until, I think it's July, but I can call him now if you would like. I'll call him after Christmas. Because I'm sure he's really.
I'll keep it in probably right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can do that. He's very good about getting back to me.
When that is done, when the work up there is being done, I hope that you can put the frames of the 2 together so that you can
So there's
have
not a gap there?
2 solid.
So it's not like,
It looks like
the braces on the teeth that didn't get there.
Okay, I was thinking of something else, but
Yeah.
yes, that's a much better.
It's a, yeah.
That's always bothered me. You just have to go up there and put fewer text.
Yeah.
Also, I will point out that.
The majority of the people in this congregation will not do that.
I will point out also that if someone pulls on the bell, it was stuck for a while and a genie made it ringable again. So we could, I believe, re-announce services.
Because they use theirs down there, we love it.
Well, I'm not into competition. I think ours has a beautiful sound, and Jason donated the restoration of the bell, and he and I reinstalled it. So, you
I
know,
remember that.
somebody jammed their rope, and another genie who I may have prayed with got it unstuck. I don't know.
Cool.
Well, that's lovely.
The idea is not.
Questions and issues so we can move on.
Okay. Can we try it?
Yeah, speaking as clerk briefly, I'm accustomed to every couple of months making sure that the minutes available to all, which should be according to normal procedure of a healthy organization responsible to its members, are available in a binder outside the office. The binder seems to have walked away, so I'm quite concerned, and I hope that things can be restored because my computer backup isn't what it used to be. And on and off for about 2 years with a few other minutes taken by others, I've been the faithful clerk and been fairly responsible about updating. That's all.
So someone has moved it, obviously.
You know what?
Just wanna find
I
out
don't
who
know.
and
We'll
where.
look for it. We'll look
I
for it.
already looked for it. Pardon me?
Binder of DC minutes.
That line that you feel the table there.
Yes.
That is what I'm referring to.
Is it black, is it the black binder?
No,
It
it's
is.
white.
Oh, my, okay, fine.
I'm pretty sure it's a white binder, it's about that thick. Nothing significant. Sixty-six or not?
66, Route 66. Many cars driven over me.
This is the Winslow, Arizona day. Yeah.
Of your child.
We had put out the information to the congregation. For anyone who was interested in standing for Bishop's Committee, we received no responses. With that said, we have not discussed as a BC as to whether or not somebody wants to roll off or roll on. That tends to happen a little more informally for this parish, in that when somebody leaves, we task the BC members in finding a replacement. We average around 20 to 22 people in person now that we've gone to one service. And with that, if you look at the numbers here, that means that 1/3 of the congregation sits on the church council. There is no parish else that I know anywhere in the diocese that 1/3 of their parishioners on. There is not a set number that has to be on one, and I've challenged the BC to wrestle with the possibility of changing that number. It's not a requirement. It's just, it's like the Comcast numbers. You know, it's a way that we can consolidate and work more efficiently together. But with that said, it is the responsibility of the congregation to affirm the persons that are on, and none of these people have said, get me out of there tomorrow. So with that said, I call for an affirmation of the following members of Bishop's Committee for the year 2022. Danny Newhouse continuing as senior warden. Edmunds continuing as a very senior junior warden. Linda Peebles, David Peebles, Betsy Giovanni, Doug Pleasure, Janet Pond, and myself until my term of service was finished in June. So, with that said, all of those in favor, please indicate with both a vocal and aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Those who need to abstain. And the motion carries, and this will be your VC for 2022. I would suggest we do a 2020, yeah, no kidding, you wouldn't believe how hard these people work. I know you do because you were on VC.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And we will consider recruitments again in a period of time prior to your next annual meeting, which will be, again, probably the third Sunday in November. And now, from your paper. This has been a couple of challenging years, to say the least. We and most of the churches and faith communities of any place on the planet has had to figure out how to lead church in a way that was different than we had seen it to date. We had talked in 2018 and 2019 as if there was a way that we could go online somehow. And then 2020 dealt us some new cards, and what we had talked about, we now do. So when clergy get together to kind of talk about what's going on, at the granular level, especially when the mission congregation thinkers get together, and how you doing with this, how you doing with that, and from the very first day, which was the 15th of March, was our last live service in that year. I said, Rudy, can you help us? And he said, yes, can. We'll work it out. We'll figure it out. I said, good, we'll pay you. And he has been probably the greatest faithful steward in taking care of technological things here that the congregation has ever needed. And he definitely stepped up, and I thank you for that. You've done a great job. You are a hero in my book.
Thank you.
And you've gone above and beyond. I thank you for that.
You're welcome.
It's been really important. Among the challenges also that we continue to deal with is no great giant jump in membership. That is a responsibility of all of us. And that and the financial situation, plus you're going to have a clergy leadership change in 7 months. Dan is already working with Denise Apollo at the diocese who's in charge of transitioning clergy in parishes. People coming in, people leaving. And with that, my final service absolutely is the 12th of June of 2022. That's a hard end date. That's a stop date. As an aside, Carol and I probably won't be moving quite as soon as we hope. We will be moving by September of that year, and they don't have enough openings for the units that we want up in Washington. So we're going to be around the Bay Area for a little longer than that. But I assured Denise and Dan that the 12th of June 2022 is my final Sunday in the parish. And since that's Trinity Sunday, I've also warned Ruby that we're going to sing all of St. Patrick's Prayer. As far as other things in terms of congregation and ministry, if you can up your pledge, do so. We can use it. Tom's discussion plus Renee and Sandy's good paperwork have said that we have some financial things that need to be addressed. And the question is always, how do you balance doing outreach and evangelism and all of these things? And one of them is you need to keep the property in good enough shape that people will come. be irresponsible of us as stewards of creation not to take care of the property, and we have one of the most beautifully natural places on earth to have a church set. With that also, we need to take care of this building. In some ways, this building works and does not work to our benefit in turn, but we're not going to be able to bring in, main cabin masters that are going to make it in 8 weeks a completely different thing. So we need to tend to what we have. Whether or not that's the tar gravel type roof or some other composition roof or shingles or whatever. At some point in time, DC is going to have to make a call and we're going to have to figure out what to do. The rainstorm that came through, lovingly known as Atmospheric River, used to be called the Pineapple Express. Coming off the Central Pacific, really let us know how badly it was leaking. We had a lot of water on the floor and the counters on the stove in the kitchen. That's going to be probably the next big maintenance expenditure, the biggest one that we'll face it in recent time. With that also, we could always use more hands to the plow. We have talked about evangelism, but we haven't put together a plan. And it would be my hope that we can address some of those things in some of the meetings that we have talked in Bishop's Committee about scheduling 3 times between now and when I leave the parish to talk and brainstorm about ideas on how we might bring in both funds and fund people into this parish. How is it that we might change ourselves or see ourselves differently? To become more welcoming. A hearty and hail, good day, good morning, glad to have you here, without a real clean system of getting people's names and information so that follow-up can happen. It's really important to that end. Preachers are good, ushers are not necessary. At this point, I don't think. But the bottom line is we have to be able to talk about our faith. We have to be able to articulate what we believe and why we believe it in a way that can be heard by other people. Because I don't think for a minute that we could touch the lives of the people we could touch in this area. And that God could still work through us in ways that we have not even begun to think. What gift do you offer that we could do a class on some specialty that you do? It would be like Rudy running a class for me, teaching me how to use all this video stuff. That could come in really handy for me down the line.
That's true.
And just a lot of things that you offer that we just need to get people in, and then we need to be more than just superficially welcoming. And I'm not saying you are. It's just a standing thought among evangelists. And see what it is we can do. I know you're tired. If you weren't already tired, it would suck a lot out of us. And we had to change and do things so differently. But we were exhausted and are tired. And then we go, oh my gosh, it's Advent again, and we got all the Christmas things and all the services and all the information to put out. Or we're going to do this, and what about that, and we've never done this, and we've always done that. The competition for our resources is many. And for each of us, it also includes the drain in a positive way. We have family, friends, jobs, all of the other things that we do. I am very aware that the church is not the only thing we have going. It's just not so. So how can we work together, pool our enthusiasm for this place in a way that makes us visible? We did that a couple of years ago with the whole whole dust up with the homeowners association actually worked to our benefit more than it did theirs. Although I thought for sure I was going to have to go in for ulcer surgery before that was over, personally. But it's not that we're trying to squeeze blood from the turnip. We're just trying to be faithful. No more, no less. That's the best we can do. Every day. Be faithful. And faithful to the parish, faithful to the community, faithful most especially to God that put us on this planet today. So, with that said, this becomes the last annual meeting for a congregation that I will probably ever do. I just celebrated 37 years of ordination within the Lutheran Church first, just a couple of weeks ago on Luther's birthday. And next week I will get a bunch of emails and phone calls from the other 12 that were, or 11 now, because Don Fisher has passed, that we were received or ordained priests in the Diocese of California, 13 of us on one day. They didn't look like an ordination, it looked like a crowd party. And it was, and an atmospheric storm went through. And at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it looked like 10 o'clock. It was something else. So with that said, I'll have probably one more speech in me for you, which will be at the end of my term with you in June. Glad to have served 4 years in this place. It's been a great ride. You've got a great people. Each time you leave the parish going to a new one, you realize that the one nearest to your heart is the one you just because it's the one you know best and have prayed and sat at tables and have been creating tables together the most. So I appreciate your resilience and your tenacity. Those are our gifts to the church these days. So that is enough said for this time. I have provided for you in the bulletins that you were handed an order of worship for concluding this particular service. This closing liturgy for our annual meeting is based on a prayer called Litany for the Church in the 1928 prayer book. I took out the Ladies Alive because I stumbled over them because that was not part of my heritage. Either in the Presbyterian world or in my Lutheran times. And there was one particular portion that I took out, I'll be honest, where it was sort of denigrating those who left the church. And that just didn't sound like 21st century church. So the sections there in the dark print are yours. And when I have a college at the end, then we will say our hymn for Thanksgiving, and I'm wishing you a bountiful, gut-busting full Thanksgiving dinner. And the opportunity for some of us for the first time to see friends and family that we haven't seen in a while. And to be able to gather in ways that we have not been able to. So we will close with the hymn and that dismissal. And then we will proceed to have some food. So anything you can do to help set up tables and chairs, I would greatly appreciate. So with the order of service as is. Lord, have mercy on us. Lord, have mercy on us. O God, the Father of heaven. O God, the Son, Redeemer of the world. O God, the Holy Spirit.
Have mercy on us.
O Holy Trinity, one God.
Have mercy on us.
O God, who called the church into unity.
Have mercy on us.
O God, who led your people out of bondage like sheep by the hand of Moses and Aaron.
Have mercy on us.
O God, who at the right time sent your Son to be the anointed prophet, priest, and king of your people.
Have mercy on us.
O God, who by the cross and resurrection gives your people a new story of salvation.
Have mercy on us.
O Jesus, who has built the church on the foundation of the apostles and the prophets.
Have mercy on us.
O Jesus, who at the last day will come to deliver your church.
Have mercy on us.
That you would send out your Spirit upon our holy church.
We ask you to give us Lord.
That you would fill the clergy with the spirit of power and love.
We ask you to give us Lord.
That you would bless the divided portions of Christendom and remove all hindrances to a perfect reunion.
We ask you to give us Lord.
That you would bring this great nation to the knowledge and love of your truth.
We ask you to give us Lord.
Almighty and everlasting God, who in Christ has shown forth your glory to all nations, preserve that which your compassion and fashion, and grant that your church, being spread throughout the world, may persevere with steadfast faith in the confession of your name, through the same Jesus Christ our Lord.